Lily stood at the edge of the bustling city, her thoughts racing as she adjusted her coat against the evening chill. The city lights reflected off the glass buildings, but they did little to illuminate the darkness that seemed to cling to her heart. Samuel, her estranged son, had just called after years of silence, and the weight of their fractured relationship felt unbearable. "Mom, I need to talk to you, Ohimo." His voice had trembled on the other end of the line. And Lily had no idea what had brought him to reach out, but the pain of those years apart still lingered. She had raised him on her own after his father had disappeared, only to have him pull away in his teens. Her heart ached with a mix of hope and fear. Could things really be repaired after all this time? Or was this just another fleeting moment that would dissolve like so many before? Her mind drifted back to the days when she would tuck Samuel into bed, whispering promises of a future together, a future that now seemed distant and unreachable. But tonight, Lily had made a decision. She wasn't going to wait anymore. She was going to take the first step. Lily had spent years wondering what went wrong, reliving every moment when she had hoped Samuel would come back to her. But there were always barriers between them, silent words, unspoken grudges, and the ache of absence. Her friends told her to let go, to move on, but how could she? A mother never truly lets go, not even when the child she raised chooses to walk away. As she walked toward the cafe where they had agreed to meet, the streetlights flickered above, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. Lily's hands trembled in her pockets, her palms sweating despite the cold. She didn't know what she would find when she saw him again. A man, or still the boy she once knew? The door of the cafe opened with a soft chime, and she stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room. There, sitting at the far corner table, was Samuel. He looked older, with traces of time etched on his face, but his eyes, those same deep brown eyes that used to sparkle with mischief, still held the weight of their past. Lily's heart skipped a beat, and for a moment she stood frozen, unsure whether to take that final step toward him or turn and run. But this was it. This was the moment she had waited for. She approached the table slowly, her breath caught in her throat. "Samuel," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet trembling with every syllable. He looked up, and their eyes locked. For the first time in years, there was no distance between them, no cold, no walls, only the shared silence of two souls who had endured separate struggles. "Mom," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying the weight of everything unspoken. "I'm sorry." Lily took a deep breath and sat down across from him, the years of pain suddenly feeling lighter. "I know," she replied, her voice steady despite the tears that threatened to fall. "But we're here now, and that's what matters." They sat there in silence, the world around them fading away as they began to rebuild what had been lost. The cafe was warm, but the chill of the past seemed to linger between them, like a forgotten draft. Samuel looked down at his hands, fingers tapping nervously on the coffee cup in front of him. His words came slowly, as if measuring each one carefully, afraid of how they might sound after all this time. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, the way I left, the silence that stretched between us. I was angry, Mom, angry at everything, at you, at myself. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I ran." Lily nodded, her gaze never leaving his face. She had waited for this moment for so long, but hearing him admit the truth, hurt in ways she hadn't expected. She had always suspected the anger, the frustration beneath the surface, but to hear him say it out loud felt like a shard of glass pressing into her heart. "I know you were angry," she said softly, "and I didn't make it easy for you. I didn't know how to help you through it. I thought I could fix things by just being there. But I realize now I didn't listen enough. I didn't see how much you were hurting." Samuel's eyes flickered with emotion, and for a brief moment Lily saw the young boy who had once trusted her with every fear, every joy. The boy who had clung to her when he needed comfort, and who had one day suddenly walked away from it all. "I should have come back sooner," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I shouldn't have waited this long." Lily reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly as she placed it over his. He didn't pull away. Instead, he looked up at her, a tear slipping from his eye. The years of hurt, the silence, the abandonment, all of it seemed to vanish in that one simple human gesture. The warmth of her touch broke through the barriers they had both built over time. "You're here now," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion, "and that's all that matters. I'll always be here, Samuel, no matter what happened before. We have time. We can start again." Samuel nodded slowly, his lips curling into a faint, bittersweet smile. It wasn't the kind of smile he had once given her as a child, carefree and innocent, but it was enough to remind her that they were still mother and son, still bound by the love that had never truly left. "I think we both need time," Samuel said, his voice stronger now, though tinged with a sadness that couldn't be shaken easily, "to heal, to understand each other, and ourselves." Lily smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and hope. She had known that the road to healing would be long, that they couldn't fix everything in one conversation, but this was the first step, and that was enough. "Yes," she agreed, "we'll take it one step at a time." The waitress came over to refill their coffee cups, breaking the moment, but neither of them seemed to mind. They sat in silence for a while longer, letting the world pass by outside the window as they began to rebuild the connection that had been lost. Slowly, carefully, they would learn to trust each other again, to find their way back to what they once had. As the days passed, Samuel and Lily found themselves talking more, not just about the past, but about their lives now. It was a slow process, like untangling a knot that had been tied too tightly. But with each conversation, the bond between them began to stretch and soften, no longer a rigid thing of hurt and silence, but something malleable, something that could be remade. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Samuel shared stories of the places he had been, the people he had met, the lessons he had learned. Lily listened intently, her eyes warm with curiosity, but also with a quiet sadness. She realized how much of his life she had missed, how much he had kept to himself in the years that had gone by. "I should have been there for you more," she said one night, her voice low, filled with regret. "But I thought I was protecting you by letting you find your own way. I didn't know it would drive you away." Samuel looked at her, the pain in his eyes lessening with each passing day. "You didn't know, and I didn't know how to ask for help. We were both lost." The words hung in the air, heavy and full of truth. There had been so much time spent in silence, in distance, and now it felt like they were finally speaking the things that had never been said. It was a quiet form of healing, but it was healing nonetheless. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when the weight of the past would press down on them, when old hurts would rise to the surface, ready to flare up again. But they both learned to face it, to acknowledge it, and slowly, piece by piece, to rebuild what had been broken. One afternoon, as they sat in the kitchen sipping tea, Samuel turned to her with a soft smile. "I think I'm starting to understand now," he said, "why you did what you did, why you pushed me so hard. You wanted me to be strong, to survive. But sometimes the hardest thing is to let someone in, to let them help." Lily smiled back, a tear slipping down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness, but of relief, of the kind of hope that only came after years of struggle. "And I'm starting to understand, too, that strength doesn't always mean doing it alone. Sometimes the greatest strength is asking for help." The words were simple, but they held the weight of everything they had been through. They had both learned the hard way, but perhaps that was the only way to truly understand. From then on, their conversations took on a different tone. They spoke openly, honestly, about their fears, their hopes, and their dreams. There was no more pretending, no more avoiding the difficult topics. Instead, they faced them together, as mother and son should. It wasn't perfect, and it would never be the same as it had been before, but it was something real, something that neither of them had expected to find after all these years. But in the end, it was enough. As weeks turned into months, Samuel and Lily's relationship continued to deepen. Their conversations, once hesitant and filled with awkward pauses, grew more fluid. They shared memories, not just of the pain they'd caused each other, but of the moments of joy, those fleeting seconds of laughter and warmth they'd once shared before everything had fractured. Each memory was a bridge they carefully crossed, one at a time, as they built a new foundation for their relationship. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Samuel turned to Lily, his face thoughtful. "You know, I used to think that you had all the answers. I thought you knew exactly what to do, how to fix everything, but now I see that you were just doing the best you could, like the rest of us." Lily looked at him, surprised by his words. "I wasn't perfect, Samuel. I made mistakes, but I always tried to protect you, even when I didn't know how." "I know," Samuel replied softly, "but I needed more than protection. I needed understanding. I needed you to see me for who I was, not just who you wanted me to be." The honesty in his words stung, but Lily knew he was right. For so long, she had clung to her own version of what their relationship should have been, trying to steer it in a direction that felt safe, that felt right. But in doing so, she had failed to truly see her son, to understand the pain he had carried for so long. "You're right," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't see you, not really. I was too caught up in my own fears, in what I thought I had to do, but I see you now, Samuel. I see you for who you are, and who you've become." Samuel smiled, the warmth in his eyes reaching deeper than the surface. "I've changed, but so have you. We've both learned." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was a peaceful silence, the kind that comes after two people have shared something raw and real. They didn't need to speak anymore. The understanding between them was enough. For the first time in years, they sat in each other's presence, knowing that the walls they had built were slowly coming down. Over time, Samuel and Lily found ways to reconnect. They attended family gatherings, shared quiet evenings at home, and slowly began to rebuild the traditions that had once defined their relationship. It wasn't always easy, and there were still moments of tension, but the difference now was that they didn't shy away from it. Instead, they faced it head-on, knowing that healing wasn't a destination, but a journey. One evening, as they sat together for dinner, Samuel looked at his mother with a smile that spoke volumes. "I'm glad we're doing this, Mom. I'm glad we didn't give up." Lily's heart swelled with gratitude. "So am I, Samuel. So am I." And with those words, they knew that whatever came next, whatever challenges life would throw at them, they would face them together, no longer divided by silence, but bound by a new understanding, a new love. As the months passed, Samuel and Lily learned not only to accept each other, but to truly embrace the changes that had shaped them. Their relationship, once fragile and strained, had transformed into something stronger, something more resilient. Samuel found himself opening up more, sharing his thoughts, his fears, and his dreams with Lily, no longer afraid of judgment or rejection. One autumn afternoon, as they walked through a park near their home, the leaves swirling in the crisp breeze, Lily reached out to take Samuel's hand. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. The years of hurt, the misunderstandings, and the tension that had defined their relationship for so long seemed to fade with each step they took together. "I never thought we'd get here," Lily said softly, her voice tinged with both sorrow and relief. Samuel squeezed her hand, his voice full of warmth. "Me neither, but I'm glad we did." For the first time in a long while, there was no bitterness in his words, no hidden anger. There was just the quiet, steady understanding that they had come through the storm together, and now they could look forward to the future. That evening, they sat on the porch once again, the sky turning deep shades of orange and pink as the sun began to set. Samuel, feeling a weight he didn't know he had been carrying for so long lift from his chest, turned to Lily with a smile. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what we talked about before, about how we see each other, how we finally really see each other." Lily met his gaze, her heart full. "What about it?" Samuel took a deep breath, his eyes shining with a quiet determination. "I want us to keep seeing each other, to keep understanding each other, not just now, but for the rest of our lives. I want us to keep growing together." Lily's eyes welled up with tears as she reached out to hug him. "I want that too, Samuel, more than anything." The bond between them was no longer a fragile thread. It was a solid, unbreakable cord, forged in the fires of their shared pain and joy. They had both grown, learned, and healed, and they knew that as long as they kept moving forward together, there was no challenge too great that they couldn't face. As the evening settled into night, with the stars beginning to twinkle above them, Samuel and Lily sat together in quiet contentment. They had no way of knowing what the future would bring, but they knew one thing for certain. They would face it side by side with love, patience, and the kind of understanding that only comes after a long journey of healing. And that was enough. As the weeks went by, the bond between Samuel and Lily continued to grow stronger. Each day, they built new memories, weaving the threads of their shared experiences into a tapestry of trust and love. It wasn't a smooth, effortless journey, but it was one they were both committed to. The cracks in their relationship, once so deep, now felt more like scars, reminders of the healing that had taken place. One chilly morning, Samuel woke up to the sound of rain tapping softly against the windows. He found Lily in the kitchen, making breakfast, her smile as warm as ever. They hadn't spoken much about the past lately, what had happened with their family, with their old selves, but Samuel felt a sense of peace he hadn't known before. It wasn't about forgetting, it was about accepting and moving forward with hope. "Hey, Mom," Samuel said, sitting down at the kitchen table. "Do you ever think about everything? What happened? What we went through?" Lily paused, flipping a pancake. She smiled, but it was tinged with a hint of melancholy. "Of course I do. It's impossible not to. But I try to remember the lessons, Samuel. All that pain, all that heartache. It taught me so much. It taught me about you, about us, and more importantly, it taught me about myself." Samuel watched her, his heart swelling with both gratitude and understanding. He knew that for Lily, the journey hadn't been easy either, but it had shaped her into someone he could respect, someone he could see, not just as his mother, but as a person with her own fears, hopes, and dreams. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Samuel said, his voice soft, "for everything, for how you've come through it all." Lily placed the pancakes on the table, joining him. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his. "And I'm proud of you, Samuel, for your strength, for your resilience. You're not the same person you were when all of this started, and neither am I." They sat in silence for a while, savoring the comfort of each other's presence, the warmth from the kitchen, the smell of breakfast, and the steady rhythm of the rain outside wrapped around them like a blanket. There was no rush to speak, no need for grand gestures. They simply existed in the quiet space between them, content with where they were. Later that day, as they went for a walk in the rain-soaked park, the clouds parted just enough to let a sliver of sunlight break through. It illuminated the leaves, glistening with droplets, and for a moment everything felt still and perfect. "Do you ever think about the future?" Samuel asked, his voice thoughtful. Lily looked at him, her gaze steady. "I do. But I've learned to take it one step at a time, Samuel. The future doesn't have to be something we fear. It's something we create together." And as they walked side by side, Samuel realized that Lily wasn't just his mother anymore. She was his partner, his confidant, and most importantly, his friend. He had never imagined that their relationship could be this way, that they could be so real with each other, so open. But now, in the quiet of the park, with the rain falling softly around them, Samuel understood that anything was possible when they were truly willing to heal and to change. The future, as uncertain as it seemed, was full of promise. And with Lily by his side, Samuel knew that no matter what came next, they would face it with the same strength, love, and understanding that had brought them this far, together. As the seasons changed, So did the lives of Samuel and Lily. The warmth of spring brought new energy, and with it, a renewed sense of hope. They spent their days rediscovering old joys and embracing new ones. Samuel began to explore passions he had long buried, taking up painting and photography, both of which had always intrigued him but felt out of reach during the darker times in his life. Lily, too, found herself reconnecting with old hobbies, and the two often spent afternoons in the garden, laughing and talking about everything and nothing. One evening, as they sat on the porch with their dog Max at their feet, Samuel turned to Lily, his expression thoughtful. "Mom, do you think we've healed enough to move forward?" Lily's smile was gentle, but there was wisdom in her eyes. "Healing is not a destination, Samuel. It's a journey. We've made so much progress, but the truth is, we'll always be growing. It's just that now, we're growing together." Samuel nodded, the weight of her words sinking in. He had always thought healing was something you simply fixed, like mending a broken object. But now he saw it as something fluid, something that ebbed and flowed with time and experience. And with Lily by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. Their relationship had evolved into something beautiful, a dance of mutual understanding, respect, and forgiveness. No longer was it about who was right or wrong. It was about accepting the imperfections of the past and moving forward with a clear, open heart. One day, as they sat in the park watching the sunset, Samuel turned to Lily, a playful glint in his eyes. "You know, I never thought I'd be here, sitting with you like this. Happy." Content Lily chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling with affection. "I know the feeling, but I think we've both earned it, don't you?" As the sky turned pink and gold, the sound of children's laughter echoed in the distance, mingling with the rustling leaves. It was in moments like these, when time seemed to slow and everything felt right, that Samuel realized how far they had come. He wasn't just sitting beside his mother anymore. He was sitting beside a woman who had fought her own battles, had weathered her own storms, and who, despite everything, had never given up on him. He reached over and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you, Mom, for never giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it." Lily's smile softened, her eyes misting slightly. "I never gave up on you, Samuel, because I knew who you were deep down. You just needed time to find yourself." And in that moment, Samuel realized that he had. He had found himself, not in the past, not in the mistakes or the heartache, but in the love and strength he shared with Lily. Together, they had rebuilt their foundation, brick by brick, and now they had a bond that nothing could break. The future was still uncertain, but with every step they took together, Samuel knew they could handle anything. Their love had been tested, but it had only grown stronger for it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, Samuel and Lily sat in silence, content in each other's company. No words were needed. They had already said everything that mattered. As the weeks flowed into months, Samuel and Lily's connection only deepened. The foundation they had built together was no longer just about surviving the past. It was about truly living in the present. The memories of the challenges they had faced together, while never forgotten, became less of a burden and more of a testament to their resilience. With every passing day, their bond grew stronger, like the roots of a tree digging deeper into the soil, withstanding the winds and storms that had once threatened to tear them apart. Samuel began to take steps forward in his life, no longer trapped by the shadows of past mistakes. His career blossomed as he started taking on new projects, ones that challenged him and pushed him outside his comfort zone. Lily, too, began to embrace new challenges. She reconnected with old friends and even took up a new job at a local community center, where she could help others who were in the same position she had been years ago, feeling lost, disconnected, and broken. It gave her a sense of purpose, of giving back, and she knew that it was the right path for her. One evening, as they sat on the couch, a rare moment of peace amidst their busy lives, Samuel turned to Lily with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever wonder how far we've come?" he asked quietly. Lily smiled, her eyes twinkling with quiet pride. "All the time, Samuel. I think we've come a long way, but we're not finished yet. Life keeps going, and there will always be new chapters, new challenges. But that's okay, because we've got each other." Her words resonated deeply with him. He realized that while they had healed from the past, they had not been static. They were constantly evolving, constantly growing. The journey wasn't a destination, it was a never-ending path, one they would walk together, side by side, through every twist and turn. And then, as if to punctuate her words, Lily reached over and took Samuel's hand in hers. It was a simple gesture, but in that moment, it meant everything. There was no need for grand declarations or elaborate promises. Their shared history, their struggles, and their triumphs were enough. The bond they had forged through hardship had become the very thing that held them together, and it was stronger than any challenge they had faced before. "I'm proud of you, Samuel," Lily said softly, her voice full of warmth and affection, "for who you are now, for the man you've become." Samuel squeezed her hand, his heart full. "I'm proud of you too, Mom, for everything you've done, for never giving up, even when things were hard." As they sat there in silence, with only the soft glow of the lamp lighting the room, Samuel thought about how far they had come. It wasn't just about overcoming the pain of the past, it was about what they had built from it. And now, as they looked ahead, they knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The future no longer seemed like an uncertain road ahead, but a path full of possibility. There would still be obstacles, yes, but Samuel and Lily knew they had the strength, the love, and the understanding to navigate them. They had learned how to stand tall, to face challenges head-on, and to do so with compassion and resilience. And as they moved forward, Samuel felt something inside him, a quiet, steady confidence that came from knowing he had found his way, with Lily by his side, every step of the way. It wasn't about perfection, it was about embracing imperfection and finding strength in it. "I love you, Mom," Samuel said, his voice filled with a depth of emotion that matched the years of growth between them. Lily smiled, her heart full, and simply replied, "I love you too, Samuel. Always." And with that, they sat together, content in the present, ready for whatever the future might hold. As time passed, Samuel and Lily continued to build on the life they had started to reconstruct. The foundation they had laid together had turned into something beautiful, something lasting. Though their past still lived in their memories, it no longer defined them. They had each other, and that was enough. One chilly autumn afternoon, Samuel found himself walking through the same park where he had once spent hours feeling lost and isolated. Now, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. As he walked along the same path where memories of struggle had once lingered, he noticed a group of children playing, their laughter filling the air. He paused for a moment, taking in the sight. It was easy to forget how far they had come until moments like these arrived, moments when the noise of life seemed to drown out the quiet, persistent reminders of the past. He thought about his father, a man who had never really been part of his life, and his mother, who had fought through all of life's challenges. Lily had been his rock, guiding him through the darkness, and now she was a beacon of light that shone even brighter. Samuel realized how deeply he had underestimated her strength, her resilience, and it was this strength, this indomitable will, that had shaped not only his life, but the lives of others around her. That evening, as they sat down for dinner together, Samuel shared his reflections with Lily. "I walked through the park today," he began, taking a sip of his water. "I thought about how we used to walk there and how different it feels now. It's strange how time can change things, how something so familiar can take on new meaning." Lily smiled, her eyes softening with understanding. "It's funny, isn't it, how we often forget how much we've changed until we look back. But I think that's the beauty of life, how we evolve, even in ways we can't see until we step away and reflect." Samuel nodded, grateful for her wisdom. It was moments like these, moments when they were simply together, that made him realize how much he had grown, how much they both had. He had been lost for so long in his own self-doubt, but now, with Lily beside him, he could finally see the person he had always wanted to be. And just when he thought things couldn't get any better, he received news from his work that sent him into a whirlwind of excitement. A major promotion had opened up, and after a series of interviews and evaluations, Samuel had been chosen as the lead on a high-profile project. It was the kind of opportunity he had once thought was out of his reach, but now it felt like the culmination of everything he had worked for, the culmination of his growth, his transformation. He couldn't wait to share the news with Lily. That evening, he sat down across from her, unable to hide the smile on his face. "Mom," he said, excitement bubbling in his voice, "I got the promotion." Lily's face lit up with pride. "Samuel, that's amazing. I knew you could do it. I always knew you had it in you." As they celebrated together, surrounded by laughter and joy, Samuel felt the weight of his journey, the years of struggle, of self-doubt, and of healing, finally lifting off his shoulders. He wasn't just succeeding at work, he was succeeding at life, and it was because of the love and support that Lily had always given him. The following weeks were filled with new challenges, new responsibilities, but Samuel felt ready. No longer was he afraid of failure. He had learned to embrace it as a part of the process, as something to learn from, not fear. And no matter what came next, he knew that with Lily's unwavering support, he could face it all. One Sunday afternoon, as they sat together in the park, watching the world go by, Samuel leaned back and smiled. "You were right, Mom," he said softly. "Life really is about growing, every day, and I'm glad I get to grow with you by my side." Lily smiled, her heart full. "And I'm glad to be here, Samuel, watching you become the man I always knew you could be." And with that, as the sun dipped low in the sky and the last golden rays lit up the horizon, they sat in peaceful silence, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they had each other. They had always had each other. As the weeks continued to unfold, Samuel found himself more confident than ever, not just in his career, but in his personal life as well. The bond between him and Lily had strengthened even further, and there was a sense of contentment that had replaced the emptiness that once lingered in his heart. But life, as it often does, threw more challenges their way. The project that Samuel had been promoted for became more demanding than he anticipated, and the pressure began to build. Late nights at the office, constant phone calls, and the weight of the responsibility started to take a toll on him. He felt himself becoming overwhelmed, unsure of how to balance his newfound success with the deep underlying need for rest and peace. Lily noticed the changes before he even spoke a word. She could see the way his shoulders drooped, the bags under his eyes, and the tension in his every movement. One evening, after dinner, she gently took his hand in hers. "Samuel," she said softly, her voice filled with concern, "I see what's happening. I know this project is important, but you can't burn yourself out." Samuel sighed, rubbing his face. "I know, Mom. I'm just trying to prove myself. I want to be the best, and I don't want to let anyone down, but it feels like it's all becoming too much." Lily looked at him with compassion, her eyes full of understanding. "Samuel, you've already proven yourself. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've come so far, and that's enough. But you have to take care of yourself. Success doesn't mean sacrificing your health or happiness." Her words hit him deeply. For so long, he had been driven by the fear of failure and the desire to be more than he thought he could ever be. But now, with her gentle reminder, he realized that true success wasn't just about external achievements, it was about balance, about taking care of his soul. "Maybe I need to step back a little," Samuel admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been so focused on what I thought I needed to do that I forgot what really matters." Lily smiled, squeezing his hand. "It's okay. You don't have to carry the weight of the world alone, and remember, there's nothing more important than your health and your peace of mind." The next few days were a turning point for Samuel. He made the decision to delegate more tasks at work, taking time for himself to rest and recharge. He spent more time with Lily, taking walks in the park, enjoying quiet moments of reflection, and remembering the simple joys of life that had once eluded him. Slowly but surely, the weight on his shoulders began to lighten. He found a new rhythm, a balance between work and life, between striving for success and allowing himself moments of peace. He had learned the hard way that success didn't have to come at the cost of his well-being. And as the months passed, Samuel continued to excel in his work, but this time with a new perspective. He no longer felt the need to push himself to the brink of exhaustion. He had learned that true success was found not only in his accomplishments, but also in his ability to nurture the relationships and values that mattered most to him. One day, while sitting with Lily on their porch, watching the sunset, Samuel realized how far they had come, not just in terms of career or accomplishments, but in terms of healing, understanding, and love. He had spent so many years chasing something he thought he needed, validation, success, recognition, but now he understood that what he had always needed was the love and support of those who cared for him. "Mom," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "thank you for always being there, for reminding me of what really matters. I don't think I could have made it without you." Lily smiled, her eyes misty. "You've always had it in you, Samuel. I just helped you see it." They sat together, their hearts full, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger, wiser, and with the unbreakable bond they had always shared. As the night fell and the stars began to twinkle above, Samuel knew that he had finally found what he had been searching for all along. Not just success, but peace, love, and a deep sense of belonging. And for that, he was truly grateful. As Samuel reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point, he couldn't help but marvel at how much his life had changed. The quiet nights spent in the comfort of his home with Lily felt like the moments he had always dreamed of, but had never allowed himself to fully embrace. Success, he now realized, was a complicated thing. It was not solely defined by career accolades or public recognition. It was about the quiet moments of understanding, the unspoken bonds, and the inner peace that came from being true to oneself. But despite the tranquility he had found, life had a way of reminding him that challenges were never too far behind. Just when things seemed to settle, an unexpected call from his supervisor, Mr. Lawson, threw a new complication into the mix. "Samuel," Mr. Lawson's voice crackled through the speaker, "I need you to take on a new responsibility. There's a high-profile client project coming in, and I've been asked to have you lead it. It's going to be a lot of pressure, but I know you're the right person for the job." Samuel paused for a moment, the weight of the request hanging in the air. He had already made the conscious decision to scale back, to embrace balance, yet here was this new opportunity, this new challenge. "I understand," he said, his voice steady, though he could feel the familiar pressure creeping back into his chest. "I'll take it on." Hanging up the phone, Samuel sat quietly in the living room, feeling the pull of ambition stir within him once again. He was proud of the work he had done in the past, and part of him wanted to prove that he could still handle the pressures of high-level responsibility. But there was also a voice inside him, a quiet whisper that reminded him of the peace he had worked so hard to achieve. Lily noticed his distant expression as soon as he entered the room. She was no stranger to the shifts in his mood. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone gentle. "It's the project," Samuel replied. "I've been asked to lead it, and I said yes. I don't know if I made the right decision." Lily looked at him, concern etched on her face. "Samuel, I know how much you want to excel, but I also know how much you've struggled with finding balance. You don't have to take on every challenge that comes your way. You've worked hard, and you've earned the right to choose when to step back and when to step forward." His eyes softened as he listened to her. She had always been the voice of reason in his life, the one who gently guided him back to what truly mattered. But the pull of ambition was strong, and he didn't want to be left behind or seen as incapable of handling responsibility. He still feared being viewed as weak or overwhelmed, and that fear was something he needed to confront. "I don't want to disappoint anyone," Samuel admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to seem like I'm not capable of doing the job." "You're more than capable, Samuel," Lily said, her words cutting through his self-doubt. "But you have to ask yourself what you truly want. Do you want to prove yourself to others, or do you want to find joy and peace in the choices you make?" Her words resonated deeply within him. The truth was, he had been seeking external validation for so long that he had forgotten how to listen to his own heart. What did he truly want? Did he want to climb even higher, or did he want to nurture the life he had already built, the life that brought him so much peace? That night, Samuel lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. The weight of the decision was heavy, but he knew that the choice he made had to come from a place of true self-awareness, not fear or pride. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone anymore. It was about living in alignment with the person he had become. The next morning, after a long night of reflection, Samuel made a decision. He called Mr. Lawson back. "Mr. Lawson," he began, his voice calm and resolute, "I've thought about it, and I'm going to have to pass on the project. I appreciate the opportunity, but I've realized that I need to focus on my well-being and my personal life right now." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I understand, Samuel," Mr. Lawson said after a beat. "It's a big decision, but I respect your choice. Just know that the door is always open for you when you're ready." The relief that washed over Samuel was immediate, a wave of clarity that swept through him. He had made the choice that honored his own peace, and in that moment, he felt free. Later that afternoon, Samuel sat with Lily on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. "I did it," he said, a smile playing at the corner of his lips. "I turned it down, and it feels good." Lily's eyes shone with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Samuel. You made the right choice. It's not easy to walk away from something that promises more, but you chose what matters." Samuel took a deep breath, looking out at the fading light. For the first time in a long while, he felt at peace with himself. He had found the balance he so desperately sought, one where his ambitions didn't drown out his joy, and where the love and support of his family were at the forefront of his heart. And as the night settled in around them, Samuel knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where he could continue to grow, not by climbing higher and higher, but by finding fulfillment in the quiet moments, in the relationships that truly mattered, and in the self-love that had been there all along. As weeks passed, Samuel settled into his new rhythm. Life was simpler now. No more endless hours at the office or trying to outdo himself with every project. He spent more time at home with Lily, enjoying the small, everyday moments that once felt insignificant. Their conversations, once filled with the pressure of deadlines and work, now revolved around dreams they hadn't spoken about in years: travel, starting new hobbies, and the possibility of expanding their family. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Lily brought up a topic Samuel hadn't expected. "You know," she said casually, "I've been thinking about the future a lot lately, and I think it's time we started planning for what comes next." Samuel looked at her, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Maybe it's time we thought about having children," she said, her eyes searching his face for a reaction. "We've been so focused on our careers, but I want to build something more, something that lasts." The idea of starting a family had always been there in the background of their relationship, but Samuel had pushed it away, too focused on his own ambitions to truly consider it. But now, in this quieter chapter of his life, the possibility seemed more tangible. The thought of a child, of nurturing a new life and watching it grow, felt right. "I think it's a wonderful idea," Samuel said, after a moment of quiet contemplation. "We've always talked about it, but maybe we just needed this time to figure things out. I'm ready now." Lily smiled, her eyes lighting up with warmth. "I'm glad you think so. I've been feeling the same way." Their discussion opened up a new chapter of possibility. The pressures of the world outside were still there, but they were no longer at the center of their lives. Now, Samuel and Lily were focusing on what truly mattered to them, building a life together, filled with love, connection, and new beginnings. The next few months were a whirlwind of excitement as they prepared for the new chapter they were about to embark on. They took weekend trips to visit family, attended workshops on parenting, and spent hours discussing what kind of parents they wanted to be. They didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in years, Samuel felt a deep sense of peace about the direction his life was headed. It wasn't without its challenges, of course. There were moments of doubt and uncertainty. The world outside their bubble still pulsed with the demands of success, wealth, and status. And there were times when Samuel wondered if he was doing the right thing, whether he could truly balance his ambitions with the quiet life he now cherished. But every time those doubts crept in, he found comfort in the certainty of his choices. He had learned that success didn't always have to be loud, and peace didn't have to come with sacrifice. One rainy afternoon, as they walked through a park together, hand in hand, Lily stopped and turned to face him. "I love how far we've come," she said softly. "You've made so many changes, Samuel. I see how much you've grown." Samuel looked into her eyes, his heart swelling with gratitude. "It's been a journey, hasn't it? But I wouldn't have it any other way. I've learned that the best parts of life are the ones you don't plan for. You taught me that." Lily smiled, a gentle blush coloring her cheeks. "We've taught each other." As they stood there in the rain, the soft patter of droplets falling around them, Samuel realized that this was the life he had always been searching for, one of balance, growth, and love. And no matter what the future held, he knew that he and Lily were ready to face it together, stronger than ever. The weeks passed, and the new chapter of their lives unfolded. Samuel was no longer focused on climbing higher. Instead, he focused on nurturing the relationships that mattered most, living in the present, and building the future that felt right for him. His work still had meaning, but it was no longer the center of his world. Eventually, the day came when Lily found out she was pregnant. Their joy was immeasurable. Samuel couldn't help but feel that this moment was the culmination of everything they had worked for: peace, love, and the promise of something even greater. As the months went by and they prepared for the arrival of their child, Samuel couldn't help but reflect on everything that had led him to this point. The twists and turns, the doubts and decisions, they had all brought him to a life filled with love, fulfillment, and purpose. It was a far cry from the constant striving for success he had once known. But now, in this quiet, peaceful place, he realized that he had finally found what truly mattered, and with each passing day, he grew more certain that this was just the beginning of the rest of their lives. As the months rolled by, Samuel and Lily settled into their new routine. There was a gentle, warm rhythm to their days now. Mornings spent over coffee, evening walks in the park, and quiet nights curled up together with a good book or their favorite shows. Life was peaceful, yet there was a sense of anticipation hanging in the air, a reminder that their world was about to change forever. Lily's pregnancy brought its own set of challenges as they both navigated the highs and lows of preparing for parenthood. But through it all, Samuel found himself more in tune with the world around him, more patient, more present. He reveled in the quiet moments, feeling the soft kick of their baby against Lily's belly, the way Lily's eyes sparkled as they discussed their hopes for the future. It was an experience unlike anything he had ever known, and it filled him with a deep sense of gratitude. One evening, as they sat together in their living room, their hands intertwined, Samuel broke the silence. "I've been thinking a lot lately," he began, his voice soft, "about the life we've built, about how much we've changed." Lily turned her gaze to him, her eyes filled with love and curiosity. "What about it?" "I just feel so much more grounded now," he said, pausing to find the right words. "I used to chase after success like it was the only thing that mattered, but now I realize that everything I was looking for was already here, in you, in this home, in the future we're about to build." Lily smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "I know what you mean. It's like we were always meant to find each other at this exact time. The pieces have fallen into place, even if it didn't always feel that way." Their words hung in the air for a moment, both of them savoring the deep truth of what they had shared. It was a truth that had taken time to discover, but now that they had, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Days turned into weeks, and before they knew it, the day they had been waiting for arrived. Lily went into labor one brisk morning, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the blinds. Samuel's heart raced as he held her hand, guiding her through the contractions with steady encouragement. They had prepared for this moment, read books, attended classes, and discussed everything from baby names to sleepless nights, but nothing could have prepared them for the overwhelming flood of emotions that hit them as they entered the hospital. The hours seemed to stretch on, each moment an eternity of anticipation and excitement, and finally, after what felt like an endless night, their baby boy was born, a healthy, crying little miracle. Samuel held him in his arms for the first time, his eyes brimming with tears as he gazed down at the tiny face, the tiny hands, the tiny heartbeat that now depended on them. "Look at him," Lily whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Our son." Samuel nodded, his throat tight with unshed tears. "He's perfect, just perfect." As they sat together in the quiet of the hospital room, their baby nestled between them, Samuel felt a profound sense of fulfillment he had never experienced before. It was as though all the moments of his life, the struggles, the choices, the sacrifices, had led him to this very point. This was the pinnacle of his journey, and it had nothing to do with fame, fortune, or recognition. It had everything to do with love, family, and the joy of nurturing something precious. The days that followed were a blur of late-night feedings, diaper changes, and the soft sound of their baby's cries. Samuel and Lily learned quickly how to navigate the new challenges of parenthood, leaning on each other for support and comfort. They reveled in every milestone, when their son first smiled, when he took his first steps, when he said his first word. Each moment was a gift, a reminder of the love that had brought them together and the future they had to look forward to. As the years passed, Samuel and Lily continued to build their life together. They moved to a new home with a bigger backyard for their son to play in, started taking family vacations, and celebrated each new chapter with the same sense of wonder they had when they first decided to start a family. Samuel's career had taken a backseat, but he had found something far more meaningful, something that filled his heart in ways he never thought possible. One evening, as their son sat on the porch with his toy car, Samuel and Lily watched him from the steps. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything, and there was a quiet sense of contentment in the air. "I never thought I'd be here," Samuel said, his voice tinged with awe. "I never imagined that I'd find peace like this. It's everything I've ever wanted." Lily rested her head on his shoulder, smiling softly. "You found it in the right place, in each other." Samuel smiled, feeling the weight of their shared journey, and for the first time in a long while, he felt no desire to prove himself to anyone. He had nothing left to prove. The life he had built with Lily and their son was the greatest success he could ever achieve, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, Samuel realized that this was what life was all about: love, family, and the quiet joy of being exactly where you were meant to be. As the years went by, Samuel and Lily's life together flourished. Their son, now a curious and energetic young boy, filled their home with laughter and wonder. Every day brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new joys. Watching him grow into a thoughtful, compassionate child reminded Samuel and Lily of the purpose they had found together. Lily had returned to her art, painting vibrant landscapes that spoke of the beauty she saw in the world. She found joy in capturing moments of peace and tranquility on canvas, much like the life they had built. Samuel, while still active in his work, had found a more balanced role that allowed him to prioritize his family while still contributing meaningfully to his field. His days were no longer consumed by the need to climb the corporate ladder, and he was content with that. He had everything he needed right in front of him. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, their son shared an exciting piece of news. "Mom, Dad, I got accepted into the art academy. They loved my drawings." Lily's eyes sparkled with pride. "That's amazing, sweetie," she exclaimed, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "I knew you had it in you." Samuel, too, felt a swell of pride, but something else stirred inside him. He couldn't help but remember his own dreams, the drive he once had to achieve, to be recognized, to leave a legacy. But now, his legacy was sitting at the table with them, his son, whose future was unfolding with promise and excitement. It was a moment of reflection for Samuel. His life and Lily's had led them to this place. The love they had cultivated, the choices they had made, had nurtured something far greater than success in any other form. It was a family, a bond that no amount of accolades or awards could surpass. After dinner, as they sat on the porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of fresh flowers from the garden, Samuel and Lily shared a quiet moment. Their son was out back, practicing his sketches on the porch swing. "You know," Samuel said, his voice thoughtful, "I've been thinking a lot about how much has changed. We've really built something special, haven't we?" Lily leaned her head on his shoulder, a contented sigh escaping her lips. "We have, and we've done it together." Samuel smiled, looking at the stars beginning to twinkle in the darkening sky. "I used to think success was about building an empire, about proving yourself, but now I see it differently. Our success is in moments like this, quiet, real, with the people we love." They sat there for a while, taking it all in, the peace, the love, the beauty of life that had blossomed before them. Samuel had learned that life wasn't about the big wins or the accolades. It was about the small, beautiful moments that made up a lifetime. And as he watched their son sketching under the glow of the porch light, he realized that this was just the beginning. Their family, their story, was still unfolding. There would be more challenges ahead, but there would also be more joy, more laughter, and more moments of quiet reflection. The future was uncertain, but Samuel knew that whatever came their way, they would face it together, just as they always had. With love in their hearts and a deep sense of gratitude for the life they had created, they were ready for whatever the next chapter would bring. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Their son's passion for art grew deeper, and he began to experiment with new mediums, from charcoal sketches to vibrant acrylics. Samuel and Lily, ever supportive, watched with awe as he found his voice in his work. There was no doubt in either of them that their son was on the path to something great. One quiet autumn evening, while the leaves outside rustled in the wind, their son approached them with a request that took them by surprise. "Mom, Dad," he began, his voice hesitant, "I've been offered an internship at a prestigious gallery in the city. They want me to help set up an exhibition for a big artist. It's my chance to really learn, but it means leaving for a few months. I don't know if I should go. What do you think?" Lily's eyes sparkled with pride, but there was a flicker of concern too. "It's an incredible opportunity," she said, "but it's up to you. Do you feel ready?" Samuel placed his hand on his son's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son. It sounds like an amazing chance, but I know it won't be easy. You'll be away from home, and that's always a challenge. Whatever you decide, we support you." Their son hesitated, looking down at his hands. The weight of the decision was heavy on him. He had always felt his parents' unwavering support, but this was different. This was a leap into the unknown, a step toward independence, and it scared him. "I think I'm ready," he said finally, determination creeping into his voice. "I've always wanted to see what the art world is like up close. It's time." Lily hugged him tightly. "You have our blessing. Just remember, you always have a home to come back to. No matter where life takes you, you'll always be our boy." And so, with a mixture of excitement and sadness, their son packed his bags and set off for the city. It was a bittersweet moment for Samuel and Lily. Their home felt quieter without him, The rhythm of their daily lives subtly altered, but they knew this was a part of his journey, a necessary step in his growth. Months passed, and though the house felt emptier, the love and pride they felt for their son only grew stronger. They kept in touch through letters, phone calls, and occasional video chats. They shared in his triumphs and supported him through the struggles, just as they always had. One day, as winter approached and snow began to fall outside, they received a phone call that made their hearts swell with joy. Their son had been invited to showcase his work at the very gallery where he had interned. The exhibition was a huge success, and people were praising his unique perspective and talent. It was a moment of validation, but more importantly, it was a sign that he was carving out his own path in the world. Samuel and Lily couldn't help but beam with pride. They knew that this was just the beginning for him. His journey was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. He was finding his place in the world, and they had played a role in helping him get there. As they hung up the phone, Lily turned to Samuel with a smile. "We've done well, haven't we?" Samuel wrapped his arm around her. "Yes, we have, and the journey isn't over yet. We've built something beautiful together." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the snow fall outside. The world outside their window was cold and quiet, but inside, their hearts were warm with love and gratitude. Their son's success was a testament to the foundation they had built, and though the road ahead would have its challenges, they knew they would continue to face them together. Life had come full circle. They had created a family, a home, and a future, and now, as their son spread his wings, they were ready for the next chapter, whatever it might bring. The months following their son's success at the gallery exhibition felt like a dream. Samuel and Lily's hearts were full, watching their son grow into the artist he had always dreamed of becoming, but as much as they had hoped for his success, they couldn't ignore the quiet ache of his absence. The house felt less like home without him, a familiar echo of the years when their family was complete under one roof. One winter evening, as Samuel and Lily sat by the fireplace, their son called once more. His voice, though warm with excitement, carried a slight undertone of uncertainty. "Mom, Dad," he began, his words tumbling out in a rush. "I've been offered a full-time position at the gallery. They want me to stay in the city for a while, to manage some of their future exhibitions, and even curate some shows of my own. It's a huge opportunity, but I'm torn. I'm happy here, but I miss you both. I don't know what to do." Lily's eyes softened. She knew how much this meant to him, and how difficult it was to make such a choice. She exchanged a glance with Samuel, who was already nodding, his expression thoughtful. "You've worked so hard for this, sweetie," Lily said gently. "We've always known you would go far, but we want you to be happy, not just successful. If this feels like the right next step, then go for it. You'll be all right." Samuel added with a quiet smile, "We've always supported your dreams. Just remember, no matter where you are, we're always here. And when you need a break, there's always a place for you to come back to." Their son fell silent for a moment, taking in their words. When he spoke again, his voice was steadier, filled with a newfound resolve. "I think you're right. I've been waiting for this moment, and I don't want to let it slip away. I'll take the offer. I'm going to make it work." Lily's heart swelled with pride. "We're so proud of you," she whispered. The following months marked a new chapter for their son. He moved to the city full-time, diving deeper into his work, curating exhibitions and building relationships with some of the most influential figures in the art world. His success was no longer just a dream, it was his reality. While he made a name for himself, Samuel and Lily kept busy with their own lives. They had learned to embrace the quiet, enjoying their newfound routine and the space to explore their personal passions. Samuel had started writing his memoir, reflecting on the journey he and Lily had taken to get where they were. Lily, ever the artist, continued to find peace in her painting, often capturing the quiet beauty of their home and the life they had built. Though their son was miles away, they remained close through regular visits, phone calls, and video chats. They celebrated his milestones, big and small, and continued to offer their unwavering support. But now, there was a distance between them, both physical and emotional, that signified how much he had grown. One day, a few years later, their son returned home, but this time it was different. He had come to announce that he had accepted an invitation to show his artwork at a renowned museum in Europe. The exhibition was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a chance to introduce his work to an international audience. The news hit Samuel and Lily with a mixture of pride and sadness. Their son was living the dream they had always hoped for him, but the reality of him being so far away felt bittersweet. "Mom, Dad," their son said, standing in their living room, his voice full of excitement. "This is it. This is the chance I've been waiting for my entire life, but I need to be honest with you. It's hard. I've never been away for this long." Lily, ever the supportive mother, smiled and hugged him tightly. "We're so proud of you," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "Go. This is what you've worked for." Samuel placed his hand on his son's shoulder. "You've made us proud every step of the way. We can't wait to see what comes next for you." And just like that, their son set off for Europe, embarking on the journey of a lifetime. Though the house felt emptier once again, Samuel and Lily knew this was just part of the cycle. Their son was living his dream, chasing his passion, and finding his place in the world. As the years went on, their family remained connected, tied together by love, support, and shared memories. Samuel and Lily watched as their son's career flourished and his work touched people around the world. They continued to write letters, make calls, and visit when they could, each time realizing just how much they had grown, both individually and as a family. Through all of the changes, Samuel and Lily found that the greatest gift they could give their son was not just the foundation of their love, but the freedom to chase his own dreams, even when it meant letting go. And in doing so, they had created something even more precious, a bond that could never be broken by distance, time, or circumstances. Together, they had created a life that was full, rich, and meaningful, a life where love, sacrifice, and dreams intertwined to form something beautiful. As time passed, their son's work in Europe continued to grow in prominence, and Samuel and Lily were continually amazed by his achievements. His art was displayed in galleries from Paris to Milan, and his reputation as a talented and innovative artist had begun to spread like wildfire. Each new exhibition, each glowing review was a testament to the dedication he had poured into his craft. It was a beautiful thing to witness, the unfolding of a dream that Samuel and Lily had always hoped for, yet never truly imagined would come to such fruition. Though they celebrated his success, there was always a sense of longing when they spoke to him, an echo of the empty space he left behind. They would recount old memories of family dinners, his laughter filling the house, and the simple moments that once defined their lives. Now, those moments were memories, cherished yet distant, like snapshots of a life that seemed to slip further from their grasp each passing year. Despite the miles between them, their bond was unbreakable. They visited when they could, often making the journey to Europe to see him, to sit in quiet cafes and talk about everything and nothing at all. But each time they left, it felt a little harder to return home without him. One such visit, during a particularly warm summer, their son invited them to one of his biggest exhibitions yet, a solo show in Paris at the Musée d'Art Moderne. He had worked for months in anticipation, and the event promised to be one of the highlights of his career. Samuel and Lily arrived in Paris full of excitement. The city buzzed with energy, and the streets seemed to pulse with creativity, as though the very air was infused with inspiration. Their son met them at the gallery, his eyes shining with pride. The exhibition was a masterpiece. Each piece was a reflection of his journey, his struggles, and his triumphs. The walls were lined with bold, evocative paintings and sculptures, each one telling a story, capturing a moment, a feeling, an experience that spoke to the heart of anyone who walked through the gallery doors. The crowd that gathered that evening was full of admirers, critics, collectors, art enthusiasts, all eager to get a glimpse of the rising star's work. Samuel and Lily wandered through the exhibit, their hearts swelling with pride and joy. They stood before each piece, their eyes tracing the brushstrokes, the textures, the emotions that poured from the canvases. It was as though they could feel their son's journey in every piece, every color, every line. They were seeing his soul laid bare for the world to see. At the center of the room stood a large sculpture, a striking piece that seemed to capture the essence of resilience and hope. It was raw, powerful, and beautiful, a perfect representation of who their son had become. "I can't believe this is my child," Lily whispered to Samuel, her voice trembling with emotion. "He's done it. He's truly done it." Samuel smiled, a tear escaping his eye as he nodded. "He's created something that will last forever, and it's because of the love we gave him, the support we gave him. He's always had this in him." Later that evening, their son stood before them, his face glowing with happiness as he listened to the praises from his peers and patrons. But when he saw his parents, his smile grew even wider, and he excused himself to be with them. As they embraced, he spoke quietly, his voice full of gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you both. All the late nights, the encouragement, the belief, it's all because of you." Lily hugged him tightly. "You've worked so hard, son. This is all you. We've just been here cheering you on." Samuel, wiping a tear from his eye, added, "You've made us proud in ways words can't describe. But more than anything, we're just grateful that you found your place, your passion, your purpose." Their son nodded, his eyes filled with tears as well. "I think I've found it, and no matter where life takes me, no matter how far away I go, you'll always be the foundation beneath it all." That night, as they sat together at dinner, sharing stories and laughter, Samuel and Lily realized something profound. Their son had grown into the man they always knew he would be, strong, capable, and full of heart. But more than that, he had created a life that was his own, a life filled with purpose, passion, and love. And in doing so, he had given them something priceless, the gift of seeing him soar, to witness his dreams take flight in ways they had only imagined. As they raised their glasses to toast to his success, they knew that their family was something special, not because of the achievements they had celebrated, but because of the love that had always tied them together. They had faced challenges, losses, and separations, but through it all, their connection had remained unwavering. And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of family and the glow of a life well lived, Samuel and Lily knew that this was just the beginning for their son. There were more chapters to be written, more dreams to be realized. But no matter where his journey took him, he would always have a place to call home, a place filled with love, support, and the unwavering belief that anything was possible. Years passed, and Samuel and Lily continued to watch their son's success unfold. His name had become synonymous with innovation and creative brilliance. Every new project pushed boundaries and captivated the world. Yet, despite the grandeur of his career, he remained humble, always returning to his roots and the values instilled in him by his parents. But as much as Samuel and Lily were proud, they couldn't help but feel the passing of time in the quiet moments. They had seen their son grow from a boy who once clung to them for comfort to a man whose vision had reshaped the art world. Yet the gap that had formed in their home, the absence of their child from their daily lives, sometimes felt unbearable. It was during one of their visits to see him in Europe that they came to a realization about how life, no matter how beautiful or successful, is fleeting. They had been so focused on the future, so proud of their son's accomplishments, that they hadn't truly appreciated the present. They sat together in a cafe in Milan, enjoying a rare moment of peace away from the bustling crowds, with the warm afternoon sun casting a golden glow on the cobbled streets. Samuel and Lily spoke little, content simply to be together, but their hearts were full. As they watched their son across the table, discussing his latest exhibition and the future of his art, they realized just how much they cherished him, not just for his talent, but for who he was, the man they had raised with love and care. Their son, noticing the quiet between them, looked up from his conversation and met their gaze. "What's on your mind, Mom, Dad?" Lily smiled, her eyes shining. "It's just, we've been so caught up in everything you've accomplished. But when we're with you, we realize that we've been so blessed just to have you here. You've given us so much joy, more than we ever expected." Samuel added, "You've made us proud beyond words, son, not just for your art, but for the person you've become. We're lucky to see you living the life you've dreamed of." Their son, overcome with emotion, reached across the table and took their hands in his. "I wouldn't be here without both of you. You've always supported me, even when I had no idea what I was doing. You've given me everything I needed to get to where I am." For a moment, there was silence between them, a quiet understanding settling in the air. It wasn't about the accolades or the success. It was about the love and the memories they had created together and the bond they shared. Despite the years that had passed, despite the distance that sometimes separated them, their family was still the center of their lives. The conversation turned lighter, and they began reminiscing about old times, their son's childhood, the adventures they had taken together, the laughter they had shared. It was in these memories that they found their true treasure, the moments that had shaped their lives in ways that could never be measured by awards or recognition. As the evening grew late and the last of the daylight faded into the Milan sky, Samuel and Lily realized that the most important thing was not how far their son had gone or how much he had accomplished. It was the simple fact that they had raised a son who was kind, grounded, and filled with love for his family, and that was worth more than any accolade. In the quiet streets of Milan, as they stood together beneath the fading stars, they knew that the most meaningful chapter of their story was the one they were living right now, one filled with gratitude, love, and the unshakable bond of family. The next day, their son gave them one last gift before they left to return home, a painting he had created just for them. It was simple but beautiful, a reflection of his childhood home with vibrant colors and intricate details that spoke of the love he had for them and for his roots. It was a reminder of everything they had given him and of the home he would always return to, no matter where his journey took him. With tears in their eyes, Samuel and Lily left Europe with a heart full of pride, knowing that their son's success was only a small part of the true story, the story of love, sacrifice, and the incredible strength of a family that would always stand by each other no matter what. The months that followed were filled with quiet reflection for Samuel and Lily. They had returned to their peaceful life, but it was impossible to ignore the sense of fulfillment that lingered after their trip. Their son, once the boy they had supported through every uncertainty, was now a man who had made his mark on the world, and though they missed the daily presence of his laughter, his energy, and his dreams, they knew that the life they had shared together was a gift that would continue to grow with time. As the years passed, they began to see the shifts in the world around them. Technology advanced, new movements emerged, and society evolved in ways they could never have imagined. Yet one thing remained constant, the deep connection they had with their son, who continued to carve a space for himself in the ever-changing landscape of the art world. His exhibitions were more than just showcases of his work. They were experiences that left people in awe of his unique ability to capture the essence of the human spirit. One evening, as they sat together in their living room, Samuel and Lily received a call from their son. It was unexpected, but welcome, as they had grown accustomed to his busy schedule. He asked them to meet him at his latest exhibition, which he had kept a secret until now. When they arrived, they were struck by the transformation of the gallery space. It was dark, with spotlights casting dramatic shadows across the walls, each piece of art designed to evoke powerful emotions. But it wasn't just the artwork that caught their attention, it was the presence of so many people, all gathered in reverence for what their son had created. As they walked through the exhibit, it was clear that this was the culmination of years of hard work, passion, and dedication. At the center of the gallery stood a large painting, unlike any they had seen before. It was abstract, filled with swirling colors and bold strokes, yet there was something about it that felt deeply personal. It was as if every layer of paint had been applied with intention, every stroke conveying a message that was both intimate and universal. Their son joined them, his expression soft but proud. "This piece," he began, "is for you, for everything you've given me." Samuel and Lily stood in front of the painting, their hearts swelling with emotion. In that moment, they could see not only the artist before them, but also the son they had raised, the young man who had found his own voice and built something remarkable. Their son continued, "I've always been inspired by the way you've lived your lives, how you've given everything for others, how you've never asked for anything in return. This piece is about that sacrifice, the quiet strength that you both showed me every single day. It's my way of honoring you." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she looked at her husband and then at the painting. There was no need for words. Everything they had ever wanted for their son was encapsulated in that moment. The love, the dedication, the understanding. It was all there in the strokes of paint and the emotion it conveyed. Samuel, his voice thick with emotion, finally said, "We don't need any more than this. This is the greatest gift you could give us." Their son smiled, and for a moment they simply stood there, united in a silence that spoke volumes. It wasn't about the accolades or the success. It was about the connection they shared, the journey they had taken together, and the deep, unshakable bond they had built over the years. As the evening wore on and the last of the guests left, Samuel, Lily, and their son remained in the gallery, alone with the artwork that had brought them together. It was a moment of peace, a moment of reflection, and one that would stay with them forever. The journey had been long and sometimes difficult, but it had always been worth it. The road they had traveled together had shaped them, just as the art had shaped their son. And as they walked out of the gallery that night, hand in hand, they knew that no matter where life took them next, they would always be a family, bound by love, by shared memories, and by the unspoken understanding that at the end of the day, nothing else mattered more than the people they had become. The following weeks saw the growing recognition of their son's work as more galleries took interest in his pieces and his name began to circulate in art circles. What had once been a private journey of self-expression had now become a shared experience, with people all over the world connecting to the messages woven into his art. The accolades and praise came, as they always do for those who manage to carve out something truly unique in a competitive world. Yet through it all, their son remained humble, grounded by the love and support he had received from his parents. But for Samuel and Lily, the greatest reward was not in the recognition their son received, but in the quiet moments they shared as a family. They spent weekends at his exhibitions, engaging with the community of artists and collectors who admired his work. At night, they'd return to their home, where laughter filled the halls and old stories resurfaced like memories freshly unwrapped. One evening, after a particularly successful opening in New York, their son invited them to a dinner at his favorite restaurant, a simple, intimate affair with a few close friends. Samuel and Lily sat back and watched as their son animatedly shared the stories behind his most recent pieces, his face lighting up with passion. "You've always had this ability to make the world see what you see," Samuel remarked, pride evident in his voice. Their son smiled and paused for a moment before responding, "I guess I just realized that I had to be true to myself, the world. It has a way of pushing you into certain molds, telling you who you should be, what you should create. But I learned that the best art, the best life, comes when you're just honest, when you're willing to step away from what's expected and do something that feels right, even if it's hard." Lily reached across the table and placed a hand on his. "You've always had that courage," she said softly, "to trust in yourself. We're just happy you found the path that makes you happiest." As the dinner progressed, the conversation turned to plans for the future. Their son spoke of new projects he was working on, of collaborations with other artists, and even of teaching workshops for younger aspiring artists. Samuel and Lily could hear the excitement in his voice, the same spark that had fueled his journey all these years. And yet, in the quiet moments between stories, they were aware of something deeper, something more profound than his success or achievements. It was the depth of their connection, the bond that had carried them through years of challenges, joy, and shared experiences. They had built a life together, a life that was defined not by external measures, but by the love they had for each other. As the evening came to a close, their son drove them back to their home. The city lights sparkled outside the car window, but inside, all that mattered was the warmth of family. When they reached the house, he embraced them tightly. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." Lily kissed his forehead. "We've always believed in you. Always." And as they watched him leave that night, their hearts were full, not just with the pride of what he had accomplished, but with the joy of knowing that he had found a place where he truly belonged, a place where he had the courage to create and live authentically. Years would pass, and the world would continue to evolve, but in the hearts of Samuel, Lily, and their son, there would always remain the memory of the journey they had taken together. It wasn't about the exhibitions, the accolades, or the fame. It was about the quiet moments, the love that had shaped their lives, and the deep, unspoken bond that could never be broken. And as the years unfolded, they knew one thing for certain: no matter where life took them next, they would always have each other. The greatest work of art, after all, was the family they had built, one that would continue to grow, evolve, and endure with time.